In this presentation, I am going to give you an overview how you can start your developing your own Android apps using Android Studio. These are the list of agendas which we are going to learn in this presentation. Introduction to Android. We all are using Android from since a long time, but most of us all know that Android is a mobile. But Android is a open source platform and it is a software for mobile development. Android, we can say that Android is a complete stack of operating system, middleware and applications. It was first developed by a group of developers known as Open Handset Alliance. That's why it is called that Open Handset Alliance project. Basically, Android is a modified version of Linux operating system. You can develop Android apps in Java, and Android is open source under Apache 2 license. It means you can contribute to its source code also. If you want to contribute something to the source code of Android, then it is openly available for you.
Android journey. The Android was developed by a consortium of developers known as Open Handset Alliances, and officially was commercially it was launched by Google. The first release version of Android was 1.0 and the current version of Android is Android 10. These are the list of companies which has given major contribution in the development of Android are Samsung, LG, Vodafone, Acer, Dell, HTC, Sony Ericsson, Intel, Wipro, and including others. Some pre-installed Google apps which you will find in every Android app are Email, Google Calendar, Google Play, Google Music, Chrome, and others.
The world of Android. Then
In this we will discuss about how many users are there who are using Android. So as you can see that 74.30% of the world user are using Android operating system and 24.76% of the world users are using iOS operating system. The rest are in very few amounts. So most of the users in the world are using Android operating system at this time.
and most of us are always thought that why not any other technology. So there are some benefits of Android that it is the highest paying technology. If you are working as an Android engineer, then it has a good salary, good package, and there are a lot of career opportunities in Android, and freshers are in high demand in Android because most of the companies are developing their apps for the users so that they can enhance their business. That's why Android is the most developing technologies in this type. And these are the versions of Android which are released from the first release of Android. First of all, the cupcake version is released, and after that, the donut, eclair, and we all can note that every versions of Android are related to food items. So this is the main concept of Android because he has when the Android released the first version, then they thought that they should release every version of Android related to the food items. That's why you can see that every versions of Android are related to food items. And these are the versions of Androids and list of APIs.
As you can see, the first version of Android was Android 1.0, which was launched on September 23, 2008. And after that, so many versions of Androids are launched, which are written in this list. And currently, we are using Android 10, which was launched on September 3, 2019.
This is the architecture of Android. Mainly the architecture of Android is divided into 4 layers. First of all, the application layer, then application framework layer, then libraries and Linux kernels. In application layers, we have mainly the apps of Android. Android is the mainly the apps that is home, contacts, phone, etc. Which are the apps we are using in Android. This is the application layer. And application framework layer is the activity manager, Windows manager, content manager, view system, package manager, technology manager, resource manager, location manager, notification manager. And the third layer consists of the libraries which we are using such as SQLite, Media Framework, FreeType, WebKit, SSL, SGL, OpenGL, Surface Manager. And the last layer consists of Linux kernel, which is responsible for the processing in the Android operating system, which is device display manager, camera driver, flash memory, Winder, keypad driver, Wi-Fi driver, audio drivers, power management. This is the total architecture of Android. Now we are going to learn what is Android Studio, because in earlier days when the Android was launched, the Android applications were developed using Eclipse. There were so many disadvantages of using Eclipse because in Eclipse, for developing our Android application, we have to create the environment by our own self, and we have to create every basic file which we need in developing an application. But in Android Studio gives you an pre-installed an inbuilt environment which you can used for developing your Android applications. In Android Studio, it gives you an easy environment in which you don't have to create each file which is necessary for the development of your app. You just create your project, and after that it gives you an inbuilt files which are necessary for each processing and launching of your app. When you create your first project, this is the basic structures of Android Studio. And in the right word project view, these in the project view tab, these are the list of files which we are going to develop, which we are going to edit, which we are going to modify for the develop for our application development. When you create your project, Android Studio gives you first basic files which are necessary for the development of your project. Then you modify them according to your need, and then you add extra things to these files so that you can develop your apps according to your need. The second palette box is the box for designing your app. You can drag and drop items from this palette box and design your app according to your need. This is the toolbar app is the necessary for debugging your app. When you are something your app, you launch your app and your app is not launching, then you use this toolbar for debugging, for getting that what errors are you getting in launching. Properties editor are used for proper editing the properties of the app, that what is the colors of the image, the styles, the font style, etc. The properties can be added using this properties editing. And the component tree gives you an tree-based structure of your Android app, that which layout is consists of how many layouts under a single layout. This is the basic structure of Android Studio. The debug is here. Two 3 points are mentioned. The debug, I have already mentioned you. The debug is used for debugging your applications. That if you launch your app and your app is having some error, if your app is not launching, then you can use this debug button and you will get a list of errors which you are getting in launching your app. And AVD manager is an Android virtual device manager which is used for launching your app. Suppose if you can't launch your app using your mobile phone, then you can create your virtual device in your Android Studio and use that device for launching your app. And SDK manager is used for managing the SDK required for the app development of your app, because every app requires some SDK properties for their need for their development. Activity. Android application is consist of collection of activities. A single activity represents a single screen. Suppose if you are the screen which you are seeing in your Android app is represents a single screen activity. Activity consists of a view components. View components means the components which we are having in your screen, such as buttons, edit text, images, and tab bar, nav bar, etc. These are the called as views, and collection of views is a activity. Activities host all the logic of user interactions. Every activity have their own life cycle. Every activity, whenever you will create an activity, then every activity will inherit an activity class. An activity will inherit an activity class, so it will contains all the properties of that class which an activity should have. It will have overriding methods and some constructors. And whenever you will create an activity, then the Java code of the activity will initially look like this. In this, we have created a main activity which extends an activity class. In that we have our one method on create method which is responsible for the processing of the main functionalities of that activity. Layout. Every activity has some layout. A layout is something that you can say that how your views, how your components are adjusted with corresponding to each other, how your components are listed. The layouts are of three types: linear layout, relative layout, split layout. In linear layout, the components are in a sequential form, whether in a horizontal sequential form or in a vertical sequential form. Relative layout, the components are relatively placed with other component. In grid layout, the components are placed in a grid format. So these are the three types of layout. Every Android app has a manifest file, and this manifest file consists the application name, the application activities, the theme of the application icon, and the other components. And it will also consist all the permissions which we are giving to your app, such as camera permissions, call permissions, storage permission, etc. This is the sample manifest file which whenever you will create an Android project, then it will consist of this manifest file. In this you can see that Yes, consists some application name and application theme and some permissions, application components. Every application has some components like activities, intent filter, broadcast receiver, services, content providers, processors, and processing and thread. Activities, I have already told you that and each activity represents a single screen. Intent, I'll tell you later. An activity is an application component that provides a screen with which user can interact. Here an example is given in which we have created a activity, a linear activity, in which we have created a linear layout in we have two edit text and one button. In linear layout, we can place our items in a linear view, whether in a horizontal linear view or in a vertical linear view. How to create an activity? For creating an activity, we have to create a class which extend the class activity and override on create method. On create method is responsible for processing your activity, and we have to declare for launching our activity, for processing our activity, we have to declare our activity in the manifest file. If our activity is not declared in the manifest file, then that activity will not work. So first of all, we have to declare our activity in the manifest file. When an activity transitioned and out of the transition into and out of the different state, it is notified through various callback methods. This is the basic activity life cycle. Whenever the activity is started, it use on start method and on resume. And if the activity is paused due to some reason, then it will directly use on pause method, and after that on stop method. And if you want to use your activity again, then it will use on restart method and again go to on start method. And you can see execution of these methods in your logcat. Whenever you will open your logcat, then you can see then how your activities is working and how many methods it is using. This is the basic activity lifecycle component tree, in which if we have created the resumed state, the start state, paused state, created state, stopped state, and destroyed state. Whenever you will start your activity, then it will go to started state, and it will directly and resumed state. And if you will, it will directly go to create state. And if you will your app will stop due to some reason, then it will directly call stopped state or on destroy method. An activity can have fragments. A fragment is a specific portion in an activity which represents some components. A fragment represents a behavior or a portion of user interface in an activity. A fragment must always be embedded in an activity, and the fragment lifecycle is directly affected by the host activity's lifecycle. Android introduced fragments in Android 3.0 API level 11, primarily to support more dynamic and flexible UI design on large screens such as tablet. A fragments, we can create one or more fragments in an activity. Suppose we want to place some portion in a different fragment, then a different portion of our activity, then we can create our fragment. How to create a fragment class? So we have, for creating a fragment class, we have to create a class which will extend the fragment class, and it will have on create view method which is responsible for the execution of this fragment. You can separately program your fragment in an activity. How this is the way to declare fragment inside the activities layout file. Every Android app, every activity will have one or more layout file and one or more Java file. Java file will be responsible for the backend of the activity, and the layout file will be responsible for the front end of the activity. For declaring your fragment inside the activity layout file, you have to create a linear layout, and in that you have to specify the fragment tag and where you can specify where you can create your fragments. And on programmatically add the fragment to an existing view group, you have to create it in your Java file. So this is the way for creating your fragment in a Java file. Intents and intent filter. Intent is a messaging object you can use to request an action from another app component. Although intents facilitates communication between components in several ways. Start activity, start service, to deliver broadcast. The intents are basically used when you want to request some action from the other components of your app. Suppose you want to open your camera by pressing some button, or you want to go to some other activity or some other screen by pressing a button, then you can use intent for this purpose. Intents are of two types: explicit intents, implicit intents. Explicit intents specify the component to start by name, and implicit intents declares a general action to perform which allows a component from another app to handle it. An intent object carries information that the Android system uses to determine which component to start, such as the exact component name or component category that should receive the intent, plus information that the recipient component uses in order to properly perform actions, such as the action to take and the to take and the data to act upon. The primarily information contained in an intent is the following: component name, action, data, category, type, etc. Component name means the name of the component, which component we are going to start, such that camera or any other activity. Actions, what are the actions we are going to take using that intent? The general action to be performed, such as action view, action edit, action main, etc. The data to operate on, such as a person record in the contact database expressed as a URI. Category gives additional information about the action to execute. Type. The type specifies an explicit type of the intent data. Extras. This is a bundle of any additional information which you suppose you want to give an information to an activity and you want to process that information into another activity. Then you can use this extras method. Example of expression intent. It is the method for creating expression. For using the intent, you have to create an object of the intent, and in this you have to specify the name of the activity, in which activity you are using that intent, and after that you will have to specify the method according to specify the action, which what action you are going to take using that intent. That you have to specify that in the an example of implementation intent. In implementation intent, you will first create the object of your intent, and then after that you will set an action to that intent, and you will after and at last you will use that intent using start activity method. Application resources. Every application requires some resources for the process, because if you want to give some images or some database or some files to your application, then the application resources will contain all of these resources. The application resources are mainly classified in some types, such as drawable, layout, map, values, and much more. The drawable layout will contain your graphics related resources, such as images and logo images, PNG images, etc. And layout resource will contain all the layout file will be there in this layout resource. And value resource will be contain your XML resource file which you will create. Suppose you create some string resource file in which you have created a string and you have given a name to that string, and then you can use that name every time when you want to use that string, then you can use that name. You should always externalize resources such as images and strings from your application code so that you can maintain them independently. Externalizing your resources also allows you to provide alternative resource that supports specific device configurations such as different languages or screen sizes, which becomes increasingly important as much more Android power devices becomes available with different configuration. Resource directory supported inside project resource directory. These are the resource directory which we have, that in nm directory will contain all the animations file of your app which you are using in your Android app. The color directory will contain all the colors and all the color resources of your which we are using in your app. The drawable will contain all the images, graphics related resources. The menu will contain all the menu files which you are using in your Android app, and values will contain all the sample values such as string, integers, colors, etc. You can also provide your alternative resources, such as you can create a resource directory using by right clicking on the resource file. You can create your own resource file and name it, and you can place your resource file according to your need. Almost every application should provide alternative resource to support specific device configurations. For instance, you should all include alternative drivable resource for different screen densities, and alternatively string resources for different languages. At runtime, Android detects the current device configuration and loads the appropriate resources for your application. User interface. All user interface elements in an Android app are built using view and view group objects. A view is an object that draws something on the screen the user can interact with. A view group is an object that holds other views objects in order to define the layout of the interface. In short, we can say that a view is a component. Suppose buttons, add images, edit text. These are the views. We can say that. And a view group is a collection of components. A collection of views in a particular manner is a view group. A view group can have one or more views and one or more view group. And a layout defines the visual structure of the user interface. How you are placing items in your user interface is represented by a layout, such as the UI for an activity or app visit. You can declare a layout in two ways. Declare UI elements in XML, instantiate layout elements at runtime. You can instantiate your layout elements at runtime using your Java file, or you can declare them in your XML file. This is the basic structure of your layout. The layouts are mainly in two ways: linear layout and relative layout. The grid layout is not used much more, and mostly the linear layout and relative layout are used. In linear layout, you can place your items in a horizontal or vertical linear way, and in relative layout, you can place your item relatively to other elements. Relative layout is a view group that displays child views in relative positions. This is also a structure of table layout. In table layout is a view that groups views into rows and columns. You can adjust your elements in rows and columns using table layout. And using frame layout is a placeholder. Frame layout is a placeholder on a screen that you can use to display a single view. Frame layout is used to display a single component on the screen. List view. List view is a view group that displays a list of scrollable items. Suppose you want to give a list of items and which you can scroll according to your need, then you can place your item in a list view layout. And in a grid view layout, you can place your item in a grid manner. Grid view is a view group that displays items in a two-dimensional scrollable grid. Comparing Android UI elements to Swing UI elements. Android UI elements consist of activities, and Android refers to most JFrame in CUI. Views in Android refers to J components in Swing. Text view in Android refers to J levels in Swing. Edit text in Android refers to text field in Swing. Buttons in Android refers to buttons in Swing. These are the similar terms which we are using in Android and Swing, but the name of the components are different. These are the list of widgets which we can use in your Android app, such as plain text, edit text, radio groups, list view, grid view, expandable view, linear layout, etc. There are so many widgets which you can use in your Android apps. These widgets are available in the palette box, which I have already told you in your Android structure, that there is a palette box in which you can use for designing your app by dragging and dropping the items. Dialogues and toast. A dialog is a specific window which pops up when you will click on some activity or when you will perform some action on your Android app. Then the dialog, a specific window will open, then which is called as dialog. And a toast provides a simple feedback about an operation in a small pop-up. A toast is simply a message which pops up for a second, which when you do some actions on in your Android app. Events with UI, and every UI elements have some events. Whenever you perform some action on an component, you desire to do some events with it. So if you want to perform some events with a button, then you have to give your on-click method to that button, and in the on-click method you can provide your procedure, what procedure you want to perform by clicking on that button. So these are the events. Why good UI is important? No matter how useful or how good your app is, if its UI is not awesome, it will have very few chances of remaining there in your user device. So for every company, the user interface is very important, because if the app is good but the user interface is not according to their need or not good as enough, then it will it will have some problem in getting market or in getting popularity. Good UI is important for smooth performance. It attracts users and keeps them. It does not irritate users, and it does what is expected. There are two examples of given. First of all, one example is giving of bad UI, and after that, an example of given is of good UI. In bad UI, you can see that the UI elements are not placed well according to their need. But in the other side, the tabs are properly arranged, and the properly menu are, and the tabs are. Material design is used for if you want to perform some extra, if you want to provide some extra design to your app, and if you want to provide some extra graphics to your app, then you can use material design API for your app. For that, you have to specify the API of the material design in your app. You can also use third-party libraries for reusing your app, such as GitHub and etc. You can use them for reusing your app, and you can upload your code Android project to these libraries so that you can use your project. You can use your project, or you can open your project in afterwards also. These are the list of third-party libraries which are given by expert developers: GitHub, Android Arsenal, Android Weekly, .NET, Jake version, and many more. Play Store. The Play Store is very important because every Android app is uploaded on Play Store. So if you want to launch your app and if you want to publicize your app, then you have to use Play Store. The basic charge for uploading an app on Android Studio or on Google Play Store is $25. You have to invest $25 for once only, and after that it is free for you. We can see the total number of Android applications in Play Store is more than 2 million. So if you are developing your own Android app, it is quite difficult for your app to get publicized and to get popularity, because the number of applications in the Google Play Store is quite more. But not to worry that more than 80 lakhs apps have 100 plus downloads. Sorry, more than 80 plus have less than 100 plus downloads, and only 35,000 apps are downloaded more than 5 lakhs. That's all from my side. Thank
You
you
have
all
done
of
pretty
you.
good. You have given a brief and detailed information of the whole system. That's good. With all the libraries and the build. Just a point of note. After Google took over the Android incorporation in 2005, thanks to Mr. Rubin, we are seeing a lot of the versions of Android. Currently, we are going to get Android 11 in a few months of time, right? So be prepared. I guess they are launching it in the month of November. So we are going to get Android 11. We are looking forward for it. I myself is currently looking forward to it. That will be an interesting thing. We had a pretty illustrative presentation. Thank you, Akshay.